He went through all that. So, he's one of the most enigmatic figures because he gets so much respect from Chazal because he was the first one to go to Malchus Shlomo. You understand? That's not a small thing. But this next step was a watered down kingdom. And that's, by the way, when I said two that are four, that's really what the real Melech was who? Nebuchadnezzar. Then Daniel served him. Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah served him. Daniel also served Achashverosh, but he got killed by Haman. Do you know that? He was killed. He was the Rebbe of Esther and Mordechai. And he was the person who was running the messages between them. When there was, remember, there was a man called Hasach. So the Marmil says, it's none other than Daniel. Shechatchuhu migidulato. He was demoted to a low rank by Achashverosh, by Nebuchadnezzar. He was the next to the king. He was the Nebuchadnezzar worshipped Daniel as a god, and that's his real role. Malchut Yisrael carried over its remnants, its afterglow, into the palace of Achashverosh in the persona of Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, who are, according to my Sanhedrin, direct descendants of the Melech. That was the Malchus that stood there next to everything. Nothing happened without them. Nothing.
But Haman killed him?
But Haman kills Daniel because he recognizes that he's trying to thwart his plot and running messages in between. All of a sudden, Hasach's name disappears. He runs the first message between, and then we don't see his name anymore. Chazal tells us he eliminated. And that's exactly the point. Haman and Nebuchadnezzar are trying to eliminate the Malchus of Babel, which was legitimate, and form this fake. Similarly, Rome took the wisdom of Greece and just added to it a military machine and a lot of technology. But the brains, they had no brains. They only had power and technology. But the philosophy, spirituality, human character development, not their bag. If it shoots, I'm interested. If it builds, I'm interested. If it's talking about the nature of God, I don't know. But they took the legitimate Chachmas Yavan, which is Yafta Elohim L'Yefes Yishkan Ba'olei Shem, which has a benefit to us, which is an extension of Shlomo's wisdom, if they're willing to be an extension of Shlomo's wisdom. And they just made it a thing. They took Judaism, they created Christianity out of it, and they used it to rule the world. They were very practical, very functional, very businesslike. They used it, but they were mezayef it. They copied it, and they stole it, and they bastardized it to their own ends. Similarly, Haman and Achashverosh did the same thing.
Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, they died, Mara says, from the spit of people.
Because why?
Because you have such a God who saved you, and you don't follow in his footsteps. So
Well, you would think, right? Go ahead.
At what point in the story was Daniel killed?
In the conversation that when Mordechai comes with his sak and afer, and Vatischachal Malkam Od, and she gets very upset, and she sends clothing, and she asks, what is this going on? And Hasach is running the message between the two of them, and all of a sudden Hasach disappears in the middle of the conversation. And they say that was none other than Daniel. The last remnant of what? Malchus David, and also coupled with Nevuah. Remember, Shlomo was a Navi. Hashem spoke to Shlomo.
He was
Directly.
the last Nevu.
Yeah, they were from the last Nevi'im. Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, and also there were Haggai, Malachi. There were those that carried on for the next short period of time, for the next, I would say, 50 years after the Purim story.
When
But
did
not
Daniel
more.
Go into the lion's cage. What was that?
That was before.
Yeah, it's 50 years plus before it's during the 70-year period. Now remember that Megillas Esther takes place at the end of the real 70-year period of Jewish exile, and then there's a 50-year period of the return under Persian rule. That's Daryavesh. Some say Mordechai actually was Ezra. And Mordechai transferred the money that he got from the Beis Haman. Logically, where does it belong? Back to the Beis. It formed the initial funding of the Beis Hamikdash that the Jews brought, and of course, it was added to. So again, our original question is, what in the world was this story of 180 days? It's very simple. They wanted, according to Maharal, their job of the Galuyot is to replace world domination. You can't get world domination without the buy-in. They had no way to get buy-in because they were commoners except by sharing the wealth. And it was a brilliant, and the Malbim speaks about this. He was the anti-king. Achashverosh was the first socialist.
The first one.
The first
Yeah,
one.
he was a socialist.
Socialist? He was-
We're distributing the wealth evenly. Bernie Sanders' hero, who was called by Ambassador Danon his real thing. He's an ignorant fool and liar. I mean, his ignorance is
Who said this?
only
said
exceeded by his foolishness.
Oh, good for
Foolish, utterly foolish to say that. I can't even go there. But his religion is spread the wealth. That's what Achashverosh does. Do you understand? I'm not a king. We don't say, you're not a king. You're not from Nebuchadnezzar. That was a king, right? Oh, you married Vashti. Okay, so you're a shtickle king. That's what he had to do at the beginning, just to get himself in the door. He used her. He used her to get in the door with the people. But then he says, I don't need her anymore. I'm going to buy them off with sharing the wealth.
And I have to go a little bit early.
Go.
The comment about the socialism, and I asked about it, and now I'm leaving. No one should think that I'm making a political statement.
Okay, very good. Not at all.
How was Daniel killed?
Haman sent his henchmen and just killed him. Stabbed him, whatever. Spread the wealth. Now, the philosophy of Achashverosh and Haman, his advisor, was, how are we going to rule the world? There's only one way. We have to say to them, I'm not trying to be your king. You're all kings. Every one of you is a king. Okay, fine. So you're not saying you're bigger than me. You're saying you're equal to me, right? Okay, I can go with that. I'll go with that. It's very appealing. Now you understand why he brought in Vashti.
Maybe not equal, but
Yeah,
assistants.
more.
Vice presidents, no?
Think what he did. Not even vice presidents, because what does he do to Vashti? He brings her in how? Minus the big day Malchus, and wearing the crown naked, meaning
Belittling?
Achashverosh's Malchus is no longer relevant. He used her for the first couple years to get in with the people, but now he stripped her of her royalty and said, there's a new royalty, there's a new game in town. No more blue bloods, no more royalties, no more cabals of power. Now the common
still
man,
retains power
the
for
workers
himself.
of the world unite.
He still retained power for himself.
She grew a tail, right, and she became a tsaras, that's what it said. Now, a tsaras is considered mace, it's considered dead. Tail means that you're not dignified at all, you're an animal. Both of those things. Both of those mean. In other words, he terminated her reality as a queen. And then he said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take this a step further. Every man in his home will be considered a king. Oh boy.
In his home.
That was Haman doubling down on the philosophy. You understand now? He says, okay, not only it's not Achashverosh that she spit on, but it's on all of us. You know why? Because we're all kings. It's an incredible revelation that turns the whole story inside out, and you really see what's going on over here. The political philosophy was every man a king. Hence, Achashverosh's experience is identical to every householder's experience, and therefore they made a gzeira that went into every household. That's basically more or less along the lines of the Malbim Pshat. I like kind of extending it a bit. Now, given that reality,
So cunning.
you understand why Mordechai was hanging around Shar HaMelech and Haman didn't do anything about it. Because their official policy is that every single nation and every single people are valuable, equally valuable. They can't get rid of him because that would be bigotry. Now, now you understand why Haman asked for the clothing of the king, the crown of the king, the horse of the king. Because the whole philosophy is what is the political approach of a brilliant political approach of Achashverosh is that every man a king. So how does Achashverosh honor people? By giving them king, by giving them malchus. Brilliant. He always takes off his reign, says, you be the king. Unbelievable. And he ends up doing the same for Mordechai and Esther as the Malchus begins to return to its appropriate source. Hence, there was the issue of taxes, because taxes show what? That you are royal. And the Megillah is saying that at the very end of the Megillah, we see the royalty and the power and the wealth returning to Yisrael. And that's why I have my own...
But the mass went to Achashverosh.
Yeah, but what does Achashverosh have to do with it? Nothing. It's all a credit. That's what it's saying. Achashverosh's kingdom was a shell kingdom, like a shell company. It was every man a king. So I'll give this guy a chance to be king, and you be my king. That was his basis of power. Okay, so he does it with Mordechai as well, which makes a lot of sense. Now, there is one more thing. Oh my goodness, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so 1 second. So we were saying, yes, the Malchus, this is why Mordechai has to come out with Big Day Malchus, because it was the same gesture that showing that, Haman was turned out to be a bad guy, and now, why? Why was Achashverosh upset? Why was he all upset at Haman? Because you're a bigot. You wanted to take out one of my people? How dare you? Every nation to me is precious. Every royalty is precious to me. Understand? That was, otherwise you say, you wanted to kill the Jews. Okay, duh, of course you wanted to kill the Jews. I wanted to kill the Jews too, because secretly I know that they're my antidote. Surface, I have to say, they're one of my 127 countries, which is what the world says to us today. You're good, you're a country. Just don't try to control the world. Don't go to the Beis HaMikdash, because that means a lot more than being one of 127 countries. That means you're the head of the 127 countries, and that's Ad Chatzi HaMalchut. That's the break point. That's the break point of his Malchut. Rachel says, Chazal tell you, I'll give you everything up until half the kingdom. What's half the kingdom? Jerusalem is halfway point in his kingdom, because it goes from there till Persia and then all the way to India. It's halfway point. It's going to be Yerushalayim. He said, I can't lose that because I lose everything. If I give you Yerushalayim, it's all over. The world today knows if I give you Yerushalayim, it's all over. Now, so to go back to coronavirus and Megillas Esther and elections. What's at stake in the elections, very, very much, in America and here, is the concept of Malchut Yisrael. Do the Jewish people have a right to be a Jewish state without being a democratic state? This whole business of being Jewish and democratic is another way of saying you're no better than anybody else, because democracy exists in Belgium and in Sweden and in all the socialist countries. They have their own thing, but you're no different. Once you take away the democratic part, you end up having a Jewish state, which is really, really what Israel was supposed to be, even according to the British Mandate, the nation state of Jewish people. Today, we have 15 seats, up to 15 seats in our own Knesset, of Arabs who would like nothing more than to de-Judaize Israel and say Israel is a state of its citizens as a step towards its extinction. Using which foil and which tool? Democracy. If you ask the Arabs, well, it's not a Jewish state, this is a democratic state, Jews and Arabs are equals. That, by definition, it erases Malchut Yisrael and keeps us in a state of Galut. And yet, we haven't triumphed past that just yet. Even though we did, but we didn't, because of our own internal contradictions, which are evenly split in the country right now, which is really, truly amazing. And the next step for Israel will be to progress to become a true Malchut Yisrael, but we don't know if that's going to happen now or sooner. The sooner the better. Trump in America and Bernie Sanders, as an example, or Bloomberg, is the same thing. Trump is the only person in the world, like Koresh, and I think he sees himself identified with that, who's willing to say that the Jewish people are legitimately owners of Yerushalayim and have every right to build the Beis HaMikdash, which is the center of their power. He's the only one. Now, there is a problem because the Jewish people around him gave him a lot of bad ideas about how to share the state with the Arabs, bad ideas, but, and the current government in Israel, even if Netanyahu is elected with all of his buddies, not going to substantially move in the proper direction. He will not. And our good friend Rabbi Kessin says that it's not progress at all. Netanyahu does not represent progress. It represents the old way. Something else must emerge, and Hashem is perhaps going to show us that tonight. that, either we're gonna go backwards and give, Haman had 70 days of power, you know that? The whole thing was 70 days. Again, what does 70 represent?
The Sanhedrin.
70 nations, the Sanhedrin, the power of Klal Yisrael. He had it. He had the 70 for 70 days. How many Jews went down to Mitzrayim? 70, says the Rabbi, one for each nation, because we're in charge of the nations. We were given responsibility for each nation. Okay, we have to carry that out. So now, let's just, this is land the plane. Coronavirus, ready? First of all, corona.
It sounds like
Crown, thank you. Who are the countries that stand in the way of Malchut Yisrael more than any other countries on the planet? And it's not America. I mean, it's Europe too, but Europe, and which other countries?
Russia.
Russia is just interested in its own.
China.
China, which is the biggest threat to the world today, is China. And of course, where is the Christian world, the European world centered? Italy. Which are the three countries that got hit by coronavirus?
Italy.
Italy, representing Christian Europe,
Vatican.
where the Vatican is. The Pope got sick. The spaghetti Pope.
You got it?
The spaghetti Pope got sick. When he came out against the even Trump's policy.
He has a cold.
He has a cold. No, he doesn't have a cold. You don't cancel 3 days of papal pontificating for a cold. Sorry.
Maybe you do.
Is that
A cold, you take a pill, you go. You take a decongestant. No. This guy's got the coronavirus, and don't let anybody tell you not. And the Chinese got it bad, and the Iranians have it bad, because they are against the crown of Israel. I saw some rabbi wrote something along those lines, I'm just embellishing it a bit. And if you look at the virus itself, what does it look like?
Negative.
It
You
has
can't breathe.
it has little spikes on it with a little round crown on it. I think that's why they call it coronavirus. It looks like a little crown. Yeah. It has a little
You
crown.
can see the virus?
Yeah.
They show
You amplify the virus. Go, you take a look. It looks like a crown. That's number 2. And number 3. So I spoke about the elections. I spoke about coronavirus. Megillah Esther. Hashem's name is hidden. Moshe's name is hidden. Moshe's name is hidden until the Begadim go on to the right person, until the Malchus goes on to the right person. That's why Tetzaveh is a work in progress. It's the triumph over Amalek, who's the ones who are trying to usurp and destroy Malchut Yisrael from happening, keep us away from Yerushalayim, keep us away from the Beis HaMikdash. Haman and his sons were the ones who decreed that the work on the Beis HaMikdash stop. He's the anti-Cyrus. He is the anti-Malchus Yisrael. He tries to usurp Malchus for himself. And of course, Mordechai is the antidote to that by reversing his monies and putting them in the right direction, which belongs to the Beis HaMikdash. So, Amalek is always partial, hidden. Ki yad al case ka. Case is instead of the word kisei with an aleph. A ka is only 2 letters out of the yud kei vav kei, because that's what Amalek does, try to diminish and hide God's name and presence from the world. His kisei, his malchus, cut from the aleph, which represents Anochi Hashem. Now, finally, that's why Hashem's name is absent from the Megillah, because everything here is working in hidden miracles, so Hashem is still hidden in the world. His malchus is still hidden. So I saw a beautiful shot, but this will conclude. Which is greater? Kriyas Yamsuf or Megillah, or the miracle of Megillah? What would you say? Which was a greater miracle? You would think, right?
What was again?
Which was a greater miracle? Kriyas Yamsuf or the conquest of Haman in the Megillah Esther, through the hidden
I
miracles?
would say Megillah Esther, yeah.
Megillah Esther, Rambam says that Megillah Esther and the Torah will remain for all time, whereas other things in the Nevi'im are going to just drop away. Megillah Esther, and I would have go into this in a different shiur. Is it part of the Torah? Is it connected to the Torah? What is a din? Is it a din of Ruach HaKodesh? Esther Ruach HaKodesh, Nemra. Ruach HaKodesh is less than Nevuah, but higher than just plain being a Chacham of Torah. It's the intermediate between Chachma of Torah Shabbal Peh, and if you learn enough Torah Shabbal Peh, you get Ruach HaKodesh, and then the next level is Nevuah, which is still somewhat beyond us. And that's what Esther had. Because we're in a process of going back towards the Malchut, and when Yerushalayim comes back, and when the Beis HaMikdash comes back, we will all return to Nevuah. And that's where we're at. We're in this intermediate stage, hopefully. And
Therefore. Everybody will.
what's that? Yeah, there'll be different. And therefore, that explains why Hashem's name is absent from there, because it's not quite there. Why it's absent from the Megillah, because it's not quite there. Why it's Esther Baruch Kosh, and why it's called Megillah's Esther, because it's hidden. It should have been called Megillah's Mordechai. But Esther has the connotation Haster, Aster, Hanim. So it's still Behester. And finally, the miracle of Purim is greater than Kriyas Yamsuf. Why?
Wow.
So again, back to the Maharal. I heard a beautiful shot. Because Kriyas Yamsuf was a one and out. Hashem made a condition within the Bria that, if the Klal Yisrael shows up with the Aron of Yosef and all that, and they're all there, that the Yam will temporarily, for about a few hours, for one night, will split. And not even a whole night. From like midnight till dawn. 6 hours, whatever it was. That's nice. But then we go back to hiddenness. But when you have Megillah's Esther and you see that within the hiddenness, Hashem's hand is controlling every single factor, that is a greater miracle, because then the Jew will say, oh, I didn't lose Hashem. The miracles are over, forget that. No. Hashem is with you in this Hester in the most powerful way that you can imagine. That's how it's greater, because Hashem is with us in the Hester Panim, Afilu Hester B'toch Hester, like they had that song, Afilu B'Hastar B'toch Hastar. It's exactly what the Maharal says. It's a Hastar B'toch Hastar. That's what we're in, and we're waiting for things to get revealed and clearer. That's Hashem. We should overcome these obstacles, and the Malchus should be turned back to Israel. We should be coronized. Oh, last thing. It's called the COVID virus. COVID is from the word kavod. COVID, it means kavod. Baruch kvod Hashem mimekamo. Also, there was a rabbi that said that. I'm not sure.
Also,
Saying it. Shame Omra, the anonymous rabbi. Okay, we'll leave it in.
Rabbi, also, in the time of Mashiach,
Darius.
Darius was king after, if according to our tradition, he was the son of a child of Esther. He ruled, and he reissued the permission to go back there to Israel, and he supported the initial founding for the first 50 years of Beis Hamikdash. There was a Shushan Habira wall, like in the shul where they put up a plaque. They put up a plaque called Shushan Habira, made out of gold, to give thanks and homage to the Persian kings who allowed them to.
Isn't there an issue with
Till the Romans came, till the Greeks and Romans came. What?
How did he die?
Right, natural death.
Natural.
Natural death. Right.
I just want to say that,
Thank you.
My pleasure.